Today, we're going to talk about something that affects every single one of us, whether you're in school or long into your career. We're going to build a better test. Let's dive in. I mean, come on, you know the feeling, right? You put in the hours, you know the material inside and out, but the test just feels like it was designed to trip you up, not to actually see what you learned. Maybe it was some really tricky wording or one of those confusing questions that makes your head spin. Or, my personal favorite, the gotcha answers. Even worse, when it asks about stuff you never even covered. You know, these things aren't just annoying. They point to a really deep problem in how we measure what people know. But what if there was a better way? Well, there is. And it starts with something called an assessment blueprint. Seriously, think of it just like an architect's plan for a house. It makes sure that every single piece is built with a clear purpose right from the very beginning. And the foundation of that whole blueprint is one absolutely critical idea: alignment. It sounds a little academic, but it's a really simple and powerful concept. It just means that what you're taught, what you learn, and what you're tested on have to match up perfectly. When that happens, there are no surprises, no tricks. Now, alignment actually comes in two flavors, and this slide breaks it down beautifully. First, you've got vertical alignment. Think of this like a staircase. Each class you take should give you the skills you need for the next one up. Then there's horizontal alignment. This is more like a bridge. It makes sure that everyone taking the same course gets a consistent, fair experience, no matter which teacher they have. Okay, so with that foundation in place, how do we actually, build the test? Let's get practical and talk about writing the perfect question. It all starts with a simple two-step plan. First, and this is huge, you have to define your learning objectives. What exactly are you trying to measure? You got to be specific. Second, you create that blueprint we were talking about. You literally map out which topics get how many questions. That's how you make sure the test is balanced and covers all the right stuff. So, plan in hand, we can finally start writing. And let's be honest, we're probably going to be writing some multiple choice questions, right? They're everywhere. So let's zoom in on a few key rules for getting them right. Rule number 1, and this is a biggie, do write a clear and concise question. This part of the question is called the stem. You want to avoid any extra fluff or window dressing. The question should make perfect sense all by itself. Next up, something to avoid. Try your best not to use negatives like not or except. Why? Because they're just so easy to miss and they can totally confuse people. It stops being the test of what you know and becomes a test of how carefully you can read. If you have to use one, you've got to make it stand out, like putting it in all caps. Okay, let's talk about the wrong answers. They actually have a name: distractors. And the key here, the absolute secret sauce, is that they have to be plausible. You know, the best distractors are actually based on common mistakes or misunderstandings that students often have. And that leads right into a huge don't. Never use silly or obviously wrong answers. The second a person can look at the options and immediately cross one or two out, the question just becomes a 50-50 guess. And that's not a very good way to measure understanding, is it? This one is critical, non-negotiable really. There can only be one single best answer. Any confusion, any ambiguity at all just makes the question unfair. If you can argue that more than one option is correct, then the question is broken. And finally, a little pro tip here: don't lean too heavily on all of the above or none of the above. They can become a crutch when you're writing the test, and sometimes they end up being an unintentional clue for the person taking it, which just makes the question weaker. All right, so we've got all these rules. Let's see how they actually work in the real world. We're going to look at a multiple choice question that started out as an AI generation, and then see how a little bit of human feedback took it from just okay to actually great. So here's the first draft from the AI. The question is about the main goal of marketing communication. But just look at these wrong answers: employee performance, financial records. I mean, what do those have to do with marketing to customers? Absolutely nothing. And boom, the human feedback cuts right to the chase. The distractors are totally implausible. Any student who's even glanced at the material can spot the wrong answers right away. They're just giveaways. But now, look at this. This is the solution. In this final, polished version, every single answer choice is about customer communication. They're all plausible. Now you actually have to think. You have to know the specific definition to find the one
best answer. That is what makes a great question.
So, why do we go through all this trouble? Why put so much thought into writing a test? Well, because it's about something so much bigger than just a letter grade on a piece of paper. A good test has to be four things. It's got to be fair, giving everyone an equal chance. It has to be valid, which means it actually measures what it claims to measure. It needs to be reliable, so it gives consistent results. And it has to be equitable, creating a level playing field for everyone.
When you get right down to it, a well-designed test does way more than just measure what you know. It actually becomes part of the learning process itself. It's a tool for teaching, not just a tool for grading. And that's really the bottom line. When we ask better questions, questions that make you think deeply, instead of just spitting back a memorized fact, we aren't just making better tests. We're helping to build better, sharper, more critical thinkers.
So the next time you write a question, or even answer one, think about that blueprint behind it. Remember that the right question doesn't just ask what you know, it actually shapes how you think. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What makes a question truly worth asking in the first place?